So as we begin to look at the different types of evidence, there are ways to classify evidence. Now here's the thing. Evidence can be classified as either direct or circumstantial. Direct evidence indicates that there is absolutely no way that it could be anyone else that committed the crime. So one example would be a statement of a witness in court. That would be direct evidence. Someone was there, was present for the murder, homicide, whatever you want to say, and saw it happen. Or if there was a security camera, that would be direct evidence. Now, indirect, or what we call circumstantial evidence, is a little bit different. It means that there must be more evidence present in order for the person to be convicted of the crime. So the more circumstantial evidence we can collect at a crime scene, the better. So we can divide that circumstantial evidence into both physical, and biological. Physical evidence might be trace evidence or gross evidence. What does that mean? Well, you may have heard of a gross anatomy lab. That's gross means large. It means the whole body. Okay, so gross evidence is going to be large items left behind. Maybe there's a weapon, maybe there's a sweatshirt, maybe there's a whole body, okay? Gross evidence are things that are quite obvious to the naked eye. Trace evidence are those pieces of evidence that we can't see. Items that might provide us with DNA, items that might provide hair, fibers, things that we can lift and then analyze, okay? So those would all be considered physical pieces of evidence. Now, biological evidence includes blood, saliva, hair, and fibers that can be used to imply fact but does not directly prove it. Now, let's be really careful here, because hair itself is not considered biological unless it has the follicle attached to it, okay? Because then we can get DNA from it. So, let's take a look at an example. This is evidence taken from a crime scene, okay? There's fingerprints left behind. Would you consider this direct or circumstantial evidence? Would you consider it physical or biological? Class or individual? And then I want you to jot down, why would this be or would not be considered trace evidence? So here's what you need to know. These fingerprints are considered direct evidence. Direct evidence, remember, can indicate a person. Now, fingerprints are unique to every individual. Physical or biological? Fingerprints themselves, it's not literally somebody's skin that got left behind. It's just the oil secretions off of the skin. And so that means it's physical evidence. Would you consider this class or individual? Do you take a fingerprint and does it identify a group of people? Or does it imply that a particular individual committed the crime? Hopefully you said individual. So, would you consider this to be trace evidence or not? Here's the thing. When we walk into a crime scene, we normally don't see fingerprints. They're left behind. They're not evident to the naked eye. So they are considered trace evidence because they require us to dust for them in order to find them. They aren't visible right away. Now, let's look at class characteristics. Exactly what does that mean by class? Class means that these are characteristics common to a group. So, for example, it's the type of fiber in the fabric of the sweatshirt that was found. That would be a class characteristic. So since there are many thousands of yards of polyester made, for example, this is considered a class characteristic. All polyester fiber that has not been dyed and has been manufactured with the same cross-sectional shape has the same characteristics. Hair is another class characteristic. All human hair is actually has the same characteristics underneath the microscope. The medulla are most likely fragmented or absent. The color and scale pattern of the hair found on any individual varies over the entire scalp. Now, individual characteristics are unique to a single person or item. Brown human hair that has a class characteristic, if it has a root on, can give the DNA of that person. So DNA is considered an individual characteristic, unique to each person. The only exception to this is identical twins. Their DNA is identical. Fingerprints are an individual characteristic, like I said before. Since fingerprints are a random growth pattern on an individual skin, no two people have identical fingerprints. Even identical twins have different fingerprints. That's what it says at the bottom. That's where we end for our evidence notes.